Over the last decade, what I have witnessed is the people saying to me, why should I vote when we know the outcome before even, early voting started? And that's hard to argue with. And if you gerrymander everything in North Carolina, people are going to give up on democracy.
Great, thank you, I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Oh, great.
I'm Maria Palmer. I'm a naturalized American citizen and a resident of Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Many people see North Carolina as essentially ground zero for gerrymandering and the need for redistricting reform because of the way the districts have been drawn, because of the packing and cracking of districts across the state, because there are so many districts that are drawn in ways that just defy understanding except to keep incumbents protected. So here's our presumably elected officials who are supposed to represent us, who are determining how to divide up the state so they can stay in power and they can expand the number of seats or keep the number of seats that they have. And again, just remember, the state is half Democratic, a third or so Republican, and the rest are unaffiliated. So you would think that that would mean about half the seats would be Democratic and the other half, maybe a third or so, would be Republican, and the rest are sort of up for grabs because they're unaffiliated. Oh no, they drew it so it would be a 10 and 3, 10 Republican and 3 Democratic seats. They did it knowingly, they did it with precision, and they did it quite vocally, and they seem to be really proud about it.
The way that you distort democracy through gerrymandering is to draw the districts in a way that helps one party win and makes the other party lose. You do that by packing and cracking the voters of the party you don't like. So, for example, here in District 12, which is Charlotte, a very large concentration of Democratic voters, they had to give them one district, but then they took a chunk of other ones out of Mecklenburg County here, all of this area, and combined it with this rural part of North Carolina over here so that those voters don't have any potential voice. And another big thing you try to do is divide cities where there's concentrations of Democrats. You see Greensboro was divided in half. Asheville over here is divided in half.
I live in North Carolina, 1st District. I've lived in Jamesville all my life. Jamesville is a very small, rural, and we can say eastern North Carolina town. Predominantly now white. At one time it was predominantly minority. I grew up in the South during the segregation period, where there was a great desire to have no mixtures of races. African Americans at that point in time was second-class citizens with no rights at all. Having observed all of these injustices, I saw that it was, we had to do something. I mean, it had to be a change. And so I decided that the best way to make that change was if I become involved. And so I became involved to try and change some of the systemic problems that were being placed upon us. My name is Willis Williams. I am the mayor of the town of Jamesville. I learned about gerrymandering through living it.
I think North Carolina A&T is probably one of the best examples we have of gerrymandering and how damaging it can really be.
North Carolina, the legislature has cut the campus in half. Instead of all of A&T being part of the 12th district, they were split into 2 districts. The 13th and the 6th district. 6 dorms on this district, 6 dorms in that district. It's ridiculous. You're in the 13th district and I'm in the 6th over here.
And it took what was a Democratic area and split it in 2, cracked the district so it would be safely 2 Republican seats. So the students who are on campus who are voting in either of those districts, their voices are not heard and their vote doesn't really matter very much. So it is just a glaring example of how this can happen and a district can be split intentionally to retain safe seats for in this case, for the Republicans. Gerrymandering is a nonpartisan issue because neither party, Republicans or Democrats, have a stronghold on this. Both have done this. What has changed in more recent years is the ability to do this with this sort of surgical precision, which is a quote from one of the court cases, that you can draw individual households in or out of the actual gerrymandering. But it happens from both Republicans and Democrats. It is not something that the Republicans are doing it in this case and in our state, but it's happening with Democratic legislators in Maryland, and it has for many years. It should be about voters choosing the candidate of their choice and having their vote matter. It is the basis of our entire government, that it is a representative democracy. And when those votes don't matter because it's already a foregone conclusion who's going to win, then that steals my voice. And it steals the voice from every voter throughout North Carolina.
We took the case from North Carolina because we saw it was an egregious gerrymander, a very effective one, in fact, that's designed to make sure that the will of the people is not heard, that the congressional delegation from that state, North Carolina, will be dominated by one party, regardless of how people vote. The solutions to gerrymandering are twofold. It is unconstitutional, and so one solution is to have a useful, usable, user-friendly test that the Supreme Court will lay down that will allow other lower courts to police gerrymandering and tell the politicians to cut it out. The other way to do it is to take the power to draw these lines away from the politicians altogether. These nonpartisan commissions which draw the lines without a political agenda. In this case, the gerrymandering problem is one that's peculiarly within the Supreme Court's province because it's not entirely clear there's any other solution in a lot of states. Without some edict from the Supreme Court saying that politicians have to stop doing this, we may very well have to live with the phenomenon of undemocratic district maps going forward. We really need the Supreme Court to step up on this one. Hopefully this time we can convince them it's time to save the country from this kind of scourge of democracy.
Because anytime we fail to discuss gerrymandering, we fail to discuss racial tensions, we fail to discuss, the rich is getting richer and the poor is getting. Anytime we don't look at these justice issues, then what we're doing is we're depriving our children and our grandchildren and our great-great-grandchildren the legacy, the benefits of democracy.
The fight for integration, the fight for every citizen to have a vote, every civil rights fight, and I consider gerrymandering a civil rights fight, makes democracy better. So I'm not under any illusion that democracy has been perfect in the past, and I think it has been an imperfect union, but it has had the ideal that it has worked towards and striven towards.
It's just a constant struggle and a tug of war to try and make democracy work. But it can work.
At the Campaign Legal Center, in fighting gerrymandering, we're not trying to achieve a particular political end. We're Republicans and Democrats at this organization. We just want to make the democracy democratic, small d democratic, where the votes of each person are counted the same, have the same import on the outcome as everybody else's. And a gerrymander is the antithesis of that. It's designed to make sure that's not true.